Welcome to the Utah NHL Team Podcast, where we'll be diving into everything you need to know to be a day one fan and to be extremely excited for this team as it comes to Salt Lake City this year. Going to go ahead and dive into it right now. Tuesday. Hey, again, thanks for listening to this podcast. This is the Utah NHL Podcast. My name's Hayden, your host. We've got two extremely exciting things to talk about today. Number one being the NHL draft lottery system. We will be just finding out which pick the Utah team will be receiving this year in the draft. I'll talk a little bit more about that. We've got the practice facility location was just announced today. If you've been on socials, I'm sure you've seen that. I'll talk a little bit about what that means. We've also got some already trade rumors in the talks with the playoffs and some teams dropping off. Some names are being thrown around. So going to start with that today. In period number one, we're going to talk about the Utah Hockey Club news so far. So the shops at Southtown, that is where the Utah team will be practicing in the future. They announced this today that the Smith Entertainment Group will be buying the area, the location. 111 acres. So this right now, if you're unfamiliar, it's a mall. The article stated that the mall will continue to exist and the shops will still be there. I don't think they're going to be there as they are now today. I think there's going to be a reduction to the size of the mall, and then the practice facility will be, where the reduction is. And then there's a few available acres and some space and some massive parking lots that are never full in that area. So I'd imagine that's where it's going to be. The projected finish time for this I saw was to be ready by the 2025 season. So not this year, but the year after that, they'll have this practice facility up and running. If you've never been to an NHL practice facility, what should you expect? How are they typically set up? What does that mean? I'll give you some insight. I grew up in Colorado, with the Colorado Avalanche being the home team there. And the way that their practice facility set up and the way that many teams in the NHL set up their practice facilities is exactly how the Smith Entertainment Group announced it. There is one rink that is dedicated to the NHL team, along with some other smaller practicing facility, maybe like a half sheet of ice for shooting specifically and testing, and, like smaller 3-on-3 type practice drills, and then a full-size NHL sheet. When I say sheet, I mean ice rink. And then there's a whole secondary ice rink in the location that is used for youth, recreational, amateur sports to help have, grow the game in the area. So what that means is, effectively, it was announced today that there's going to be a new hockey rink in Sandy, Utah, which is where the shops at Southtown are. So if you're local to that area and you've been driving to Salt Lake City to play, or Provo, or any of the rinks, up by you, you're going to have another one, which is amazing. And I think this is honestly the most exciting news, is that there's going to be another public rink for hockey fans and hockey players in Utah. And this is going to help grow the game with high school teams, give them a place to play. It's amazing. I think this is the first of many things that you're going to see with bringing an NHL team to Utah, where this is growing the game. It's not necessarily about the team and the equipment that they're going to have. It's about, this is the first thing that's happening to grow the game in Utah, and how we're going to do it is make rinks more accessible for everyone. So, I play here locally. I've played here locally for a long time. There are not enough rinks. There's, I know people that go to their youth practices, and there's 60 kids on the ice at one time for their 10 and under practice. So there are people that want to play. There are plenty of kids that want to play hockey. There are not enough rinks. There's not enough ice time available for everyone. So this is what we need. We need more rinks and more time for these people to be able to play the game. And then what that means is they'll become fans of the team, and they'll go and they'll support the team. They'll buy the gear, they'll buy the merch, everything along with that. So that's the first development. Super excited. There's going to be more rinks. There's going to be more. I also read in the article that there's going to be like a pro shop, a team shop in there. So all exciting things to do, to go see. You can even watch the team. Also at practice facilities, there's typically not a ton of seating, but I would say maybe like 5 to 10 rows of stadium seating for spectators to go watch practices that are open or scrimmages, or, a lot of times they'll do rookie showcases or things like that, or, have the call-ups play, and you'll be able to see some members of the team there. So be looking out for that. I'm sure there's going to be some events where we can all go and check out the team at the practice facility in Sandy, Utah. We'll keep you updated on when that's available. Again, it's not going to be immediately, and this is all part of the long-term plans of the team. So exciting news, though. And then I guess the other thing that I definitely want to spend time talking about today, and I made a whole podcast about it last week, but the draft lottery is massive for this team. The Arizona Coyotes never once improved their draft position with the lottery system. Like I said, that is not our past. We are separate. We are different. This is a new team. I believe we're going to be moving up this year. And I'm going to sit there tonight and cross my fingers and watch and hope that we get a pick. After we are assigned the pick, I'm going to be making another podcast later this week to talk about potential prospects. Didn't really see a purpose of making a pick or making a pod to announce the pick and then not really having a bunch of options to talk about then. So I'm kind of waiting till after we know what our pick is to really talk about potential draft options. We got to figure out which pick we have first, though. So I would say tune in. It's going to be on NHL Network if you have the opportunity to watch that. Also, it's going to be plastered all over social media tomorrow evening. So keep your eyes peeled. Check out X, Instagram, follow me, whatever you need to do. That is going to be plastered everywhere tomorrow. So I'm sure you won't miss it if you're a hockey fan. If you found this podcast, I'm sure you'll be able to figure out what pick we have tomorrow evening. Or tonight, actually. Not tomorrow, it's tonight. So that's the update on the draft lottery. Everyone be ready for that. The actual draft day will be on May 23rd. So we're looking about 3 weeks away from the actual draft, a little less than 3 weeks away for the actual draft to occur. So that's when we're figuring out which players we actually get. Again, our team has 13 picks this year in the draft. There are only 7 rounds of picks. So typically each team is assigned 1 pick per round, and then each round you get to pick another player. So with there being only 7 rounds and us having 13 picks, we have 1 pick in the first round. This year we have 3 picks of the second round, and I think it's 3 or 2 in the third and the fourth. Usually, and this is a huge general statement, but the first round is where most of the NHL players come from. You will for sure 100% find tons of NHL players drafted in the second, third, fourth round, or even undrafted players. But the odds that the player that you pick in the round diminish significantly past the first round and then the third round, fourth round. So I would say where I'm going to spend a lot of the time and a lot of the focus is the first and the second round and discussing which players that we might potentially want to get. There's also a ton of cap space for this team, so we have to spend money this year to fill out our roster. We've got a bunch of players that are on unrestricted free agents, which means that they can ultimately choose where they go depending on the contracts that they're offered. So there's a lot to talk about. First domino to fall will be what pick do we have? That's it for period number 1. Period number 2, a little bit more hockey talky today. I want to spend some time going back to some jargon. I'm going to save some rules for a later pod. I had some questions about some more specific things, but I wanted to get more vernacular to everyone and let everyone know what today we're going to be focusing on passing and shooting and all of the words that come with that. So first of all, to pass and to shoot you need to have the puck. So what do we call the puck in hockey? We call it the biscuit. So the biscuit is the puck. You can pass someone the biscuit. You can shoot the biscuit. You can drop the biscuit. You can pick up the biscuit. All of that means, hey, shoot, pass, drop up, pick up the puck. So I think that comes from just it's kind of shaped like a biscuit, to be honest. So that's pretty much where I believe it comes from. The next thing I'll talk about is passing. So there's a couple different types of pass that you can make. One thing that you'll hear oftentimes when a very good pass is made and a player's hit in stride and the pass is perfectly timed and it goes from one player's stick directly onto the other player's stick, we call that tape to tape. A tape to tape pass it's a great pass. It means right off my stick directly to the other person's stick. Think about this too. If you've seen a hockey stick up close, there's tape on it to help with friction and help with the stickiness and the tackiness and the interaction with the puck to help soften it. It's all about feel. So you add some tape on the blade of your stick to help with the feel. And the tape is usually, sometimes it's the full length. It's kind of up to the player on how they want to tape it. But the tape is usually a part of the blade. So it's passing it from the sweet spot on your blade onto the sweet spot of another player on your team's blade of their stick. So a really crisp, good pass is a tape-to-tape pass. Then, if you want to get even more fancy with it, you can throw a saucer pass. So to give someone a nice saucer pass is to shoot the puck or pass the puck in the air. Add some height onto it. So a good saucer pass can vary in height depending on the distance and how close you are, but usually you want to get it up nice about knee high or even higher to pass it. And that the reason players do this, aside from it just looks cool to put a little aerial pass up there to your team, really the reason you do it is it's much harder to defend. Now a player trying to defend your pass doesn't just have to put their stick on the ice to intercept it. They have to hit it out of the air. So a saucer pass is much harder to defend. It's also much harder to execute because a puck is not round. A biscuit is not round, and it needs to fly through the air perfectly as if it was laying flat on the ice and not having a lot of wobble to it or a lot of flipping of the puck in the air. It needs to soar through and look like a saucer, like a flying saucer or a frisbee. It needs to be flat through the air. So when it lands on the ice, right before it goes to the other player's tape or the other person's stick, it lands and it's catchable. Because what will happen is if you flip it up and there's a lot of wobble to the puck, the bounce becomes incredibly unpredictable. It's like a fumble in football. You can flip it up. You have no idea which direction it's going to bounce. So if you make it a saucer pass and you throw it up and the puck is flat in the air, then it lands flat, and that makes it much easier to receive on your team. So you can call it a saucer pass. For short, you can call it sauce. You can put sauce on it. You can put sauce on a pass. If you put sauce on the biscuit, that means that you pass it in the air to another player on your team. And you can do sweet sauce, you can do spicy sauce, all kinds of different sauce that you can throw on a pass to make it, easier to receive for your team and to look cool while you're doing it. The other part I want to talk about today is shooting the puck. So a lot of different ways to shoot the puck. Three probably most common ways to shoot the puck would be a slap shot. That in itself is a hockey specific word. Think of that as a wind up. Like you take a shot and the puck's on the ice and you bring your stick all the way back up over your head or to your waist high at least, and then you bring it through and you hit the puck as hard as you can. That's a power shot, is a way to execute a slap shot, or why you would execute a slap shot is to get a lot of power behind it. We call those clappers, and we make some big clap when you hit a slap shot. They're very loud. And you'll hear it when you go to a game. You'll hear when someone takes a slap shot. You'll hear a big clap. So we call those clappers. So take a clapper from the point. Take a clapper from the blue line. Those are slap shots from the blue line. They're very powerful shots. Usually take a moment or two longer to execute, but you get more power. They're also called clap bombs, as another word for slap shot. You take a clap bomb, or hey, that guy has a clap bomb. It means that, hey, if he takes a slap shot, it's going to be a really hard shot. So either get out of the way if you're me and you're not trying to block shots and you're not trying to get hit. You get out of the way of the clap bombs and you just let your goalie hit it, or you just let him miss the net. Usually is what happens in my leagues. But the clap bombs in the NHL are powerful. They often reach 100 miles an hour. So clap bombs, slap shots. The other two types of shots would be a snap shot. So not a clap shot, but a snap, like you're snapping your fingers. That type of shot is kind of halfway between a slap shot and what we call a wrist shot. So think of your stick still on the ice, but you have your stick maybe 12 inches behind the puck, and then you just smack the puck from there. You snap it. This is honestly what is probably the most common shot at high level hockey. The reason is because you can execute it very quick. There's more power to it, and you can change the angle very quickly of the shot. So you can move the puck inside or outside with a toe drag or a deke. I'll explain those maybe later, but you can do a move with the puck and then change your angle right before you shoot the puck much more easily with a snapshot. So a lot of the best players and a lot of best goal scorers in the NHL have great snapshots, and then they're able to manipulate the puck and shoot it very quickly in a short, tight space. The last one I'll talk about is a wrist shot. So a wrist shot is kind of like, you think of like passing the puck as hard as you can and turning it into a shot. So the puck is on your stick, you bring it back, you kind of load it on your stick, and then you glide the puck forward and shoot the puck forward with it being on your stick for the entirety of the windup on the ice. So bringing it back, cocking the puck back on the stick, and then winding it up. This is a more traditional way to shoot the puck. It's a very good way to learn to elevate the puck. I would say you're going to see this at all levels. It's very important at all levels to learn how to shoot a good wrist shot. It's also important to learn to call it the wrister, to have a good wrister. If you have a good wrister, you're scoring a lot of goals. It means that you're going to be able to elevate the puck. You're going to be able to snipe the puck. If you're going to snipe the puck, that means that you're either using a clapper, a snapshot, or a wrister, and you're picking a very specific location on the net in the goal to hit. So if you're going to snipe a clapper, then that means that you're going to take take a slap shot from the blue line and then have it go into a small little corner, maybe right above the goalie's shoulder, right in there, or have it hit the post and go in. Like that's a snipe with a clap bomb. And then the other way would be, you could snipe a snapshot, you could snipe a wrister as well. So those are a lot of the different passing and shooting lingo that you can talk about. I'm going to break into to actual moves that you can do later on as well in a later pod. But that's it for Hockey Talkie, period number 2. Final period number 3, we're going to be talking about the NHL playoffs as they are right now. I've told each one of you guys, tune into the games, watch these. It's the best thing that you can do to get excited for the season next year. We are now in round 2 officially. Round 1 has finished. The scheduling has been slightly weird because there was a round 2 game that started before the round 1 games were entirely finished. Not unheard of in professional sports to do that. Happens at every league. Usually just a scheduling conflict. Think of how a lot of these teams play the NBA and the NHL professional teams out of the same stadium. So there's a lot of teams that do this. Boston, Colorado, Dallas, tons more, New York. A lot of teams. It's very common our Utah team will be sharing a arena with the Jazz, for example. So scheduling becomes difficult about this time of year, especially when there's playoff games and home and away schedules. So we have locked in round 2 now officially after Sunday night. So I'm going to start in the Western Conference where there's been no games played yet as of this point. And then I'll jump over to the East where there's actually been 2 games played into the second round already. But I want to give my initial opinions and reactions to the teams in the West. So in the West, there are 4 teams remaining. So this is essentially the semifinals of the West or quarterfinals of the Stanley Cup. We have Dallas against Colorado. So Dallas went to Game 7 in their previous round 1 matchup with the Las Vegas Knights, who were the defending Stanley Cup champions. And they went to Game 7 and won a pretty close game. You know, watching the game, it was tight all the way down to the wire, and Dallas pulled it out. Dallas honestly just seemed like the team that really had the legs. The veterans on Vegas, aside from maybe Jack Eichel, who's kind of their star skill player on the team, really just didn't look like they had their best stuff. And honestly, Dallas players didn't, they brought the physicality and they brought the structure to the game, but the young players really popped off for Dallas, and the young legs really were what made the difference. I would say Vegas has a deep team that is very good, but they are missing, some young superstars and young up and coming talent, which is what Dallas has with a nice mixture of veteran players as well. So not surprised Dallas pulled it off, but it was, a tough round for a first round matchup to think that, hey, I'm Dallas. We won the Western Division, the Western Conference, and we have to play the defending Stanley Cup champions in the first round. Kind of bad break. Vegas kind of stumbled their way into the playoffs. The whole year they were kind of teetering in and out of the playoffs and just really couldn't find a good groove during the regular season. Nonetheless, a great playoff team. They won the cup last year. A ton of the players returning. So knew it was going to be a tough matchup for them. I always kind of thought Dallas would pull it out. They did. I was right. I'm not always right, but I'm right often. So Dallas will be playing Colorado. Colorado is my second favorite team at the moment behind the Utah team. So Colorado slow out the gates against Winnipeg, lost the first game due to poor goaltending, and then basically wiped the floor with them the rest of the game, won 4 straight, no contest, scored the most goals out of any first round series, and they only played 5 games. So high scoring team, very fast, dynamic, really great high-end talent on the team as well. I would say that this is the probably going to be one of the top 2 most competitive rounds of this second round of the playoffs. There's one in the East that I think is equally as competitive, but this is a gauntlet. So that these 2 teams are, 2 of the top 3 teams in the West, and they've got to play each other. And, it's a tough draw. That's why some people want to go back to the NHL once upon a time used to do a 1 through 8 seeding, similar to the NBA, where 1 plays 8 and 2 plays 7, so on and so forth, to kind of avoid this. But really, you got to beat the best to be the best. So it is what it is. If you're Dallas or Colorado, you say, hey, we got to play a tough team and we're going to beat them. I think I'm picking Colorado in 6 for this one. I think Colorado's home ice advantage. I think they're going to steal a game early. They're going to win 2 at home, and then they're going to win the 6th game at home as well. So I think that's how it's going to go. We'll see. I'll be watching every game of that series as it goes along. The other game or the other matchup in the Western Conference to be watching for, Vancouver is going to be playing Edmonton. This series is what most people would say is probably the least competitive, or Vegas odds-on favorites Edmonton are probably have the biggest. They're the biggest favorite in this round of the playoffs to win against their opponents. So it would be interesting to see. I think Vancouver is going to come out and be tougher to play than most people are giving them credit for. I think it's still going to be Edmonton, but I think it's going to take them 7. I think it's going to take them 7 games to get it done against Vancouver. A lot of people are calling a sweep or 5 games or 6 games, but calling Edmonton. I think Edmonton's close. They want to win it. They've got a lot of good players. They still don't have the depth that I think you need to win in the NHL. So I'm calling them to win this round of the playoffs and then probably definitely get bounced in the Western Conference Finals. So Edmonton in 6, Vancouver to play much better than expected is my prediction for that matchup. Moving over to we got Boston against the Florida Panthers. I predicted that the Florida Panthers would stomp Boston, win 5. I might be wrong. The first game's already happened, and Boston came out, dominated, looked like they were engaged. They didn't have tired legs. They came out swinging, which is oftentimes happens. So Boston in the previous round played against Toronto. They went to Game 7. That was only 2 nights ago from the time they played their first game. So they had 1 day off and then played again. And then where Florida had been sitting around, it's the old rest versus ready, basically. One team's rested, has a week. The other one just played. They're feeling, emotions are high. They can ride those. I think it'll slow down for Boston still. I believe Florida's a deep enough team and they could pull it together and they're going to look great. Boston's goalie, Swayman, is looking incredible right now. So big shout out to Swayman and Boston for really pulling out Game 1. If they can win another one in Florida, Boston's probably going to be, I'm gonna think they're gonna win the series if they can pull another one out in Florida. However, I do think Florida is a powerhouse and it's going to be a really tough one for them. I think since Boston won this first one, this is at least going 6 games. Could be another 7-game gauntlet battle for Boston, but I'm taking Florida in 6 is what I think is going to happen here. So TBD, could be wrong on that one. I thought Toronto might come back on Boston. They almost did. They didn't. Boston continues to surprise people, so wouldn't be surprised if they proved me wrong again. So watch that series, check it out. I think it's going to be a little bit more interesting than people had thought. The other one that I would say is the most competitive games or most competitive matchup of the East, and then also pretty close, between Dallas and Colorado and New York and Carolina on the East side of just, hey, it's too bad these teams have to play each other before the Stanley Cup final because these two teams might be the first and second best teams in the NHL. We don't know, and we're not going to know because they're going to play each other in the second round. New York won the first game. They've got, they just came out and essentially decided they were going to basically bully Carolina. They're playing a physical big boy hockey. They've got the talk of the NHL, Matt Rempe, who essentially went on a fighting tour across the NHL and gooned his way up into the spot, which mad props. Some players, to get in the NHL, they got to get punched in the face and prove that they can take their shots and that they can motivate their team in other ways than scoring goals. Because, not everyone can be on the top line of the team, and you got to find a role player. So I respect the heck out of that. I think it's harder than you think to be that type of role player and, take that type of abuse. But in all reality, this guy has made an impact and for New York this year, and he's barely playing in the games, but everyone knows where he is on the ice. The crowd cheers for him. The Carolina Hurricanes know when he's on the ice. They're checking over their shoulders. That's exactly where New York wants him. So I think New York's going to win this. I think it's going to go 7. I think Carolina, Rob Brindamore, they've got, they're taking steps forward. They took a couple leaps and they rolled the dice at the trade deadline this year, which they haven't done in the past. They sold some assets. They brought some players in, which I think are great assets that they've had and they brought to the team. So we'll see if we can get Kuznetsov can pull some goals out here. That's been an interesting story to follow. Essentially, this guy was on the Washington Capitals, was sent down into the minor leagues, but was one of their best players when Washington Capitals won the Cup in 2018. Eventually, a few years later, he's sent down to the minors. Carolina says, hey, we'll take that guy. And now he's playing as if he is on the Washington Capitals in 2018. So really great player that they've picked up for little to nothing. And then also brought in some other players to help elevate the team to the next level. So those are my picks. I've got Colorado in 6, Edmonton in 6, Florida in 6, New York in 7. So put that in the books. Might be making myself look silly, but those are the picks. I'm sticking to it. I think I'm better than average at this. So everyone, thanks again for listening. We're hoping to get 1,000 downloads on this next episode. So everybody like and subscribe, share it with your friends, put it on your Insta stories, follow me on socials. Appreciate it.